Hey, so check out this conversation that I just had with Maria. She's finishing up her boot camp, learning HTML, JavaScript, CSS, trying to be a developer, web developer, and we basically went over a lot of different things, but mostly we went really in depth on what is a for loop and how it works in JavaScript and how the variables get instantiated. And then we took a detour going over Truthy and Falsy values, really foundational things if you want to learn how to code and become a web developer. So I hope that it's as useful to you as it was to me for explaining it, and hopefully it was to her for having this back and forth. She was asking great questions the entire time. So I think a lot of people might be able to get some value out of it. So let me know if you do, and here it is. Yeah, so what are you up to? You said you had some questions about an algorithm.
Yes. It's an algorithm. So I'm supposed to create a function that takes in any array, and then I need to find or return the first big number in the array. So if the array is 1, 3, 2, and it continues, the first big number would be the number 2.
First big number?
First big number. So if I do, I'll send it in the chat. An example would be an array of 1, 3, 2, 5, 6. The function would return the number 3 because that's the first
number peak. Yeah, as in okay. That makes sense. So it means that like if the number before it and the number after it is smaller, or if both are smaller or both are larger, you would return that number.
Trying to understand it better because I did it with I tried using a loop, but then I got stuck. So I wanted to review how I would use my loop so I could continue working on this algorithm.
Do you have some code to show?
And let's see. And the way that I was working on it, I didn't use like VS Code or any of that. It's just like a whiteboarding, I guess. It's just everything from memory. And I was trying to do it on visualizing it and using VS Code and then a browser and see how everything will look like. And I tried it using the for loop, but it doesn't. I think there might be something wrong with it. I'll send in the chat. That's what I have. I don't know.
So this is what you showed me here.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just a whiteboard thing because I figure we could like go over it in a thing. Okay, so here like the problem is very clear to me. So for when you have a for loop right here like this, you see like you have for, right? Then the first item is initial condition. Then there is something that needs to evaluate true or false. And while this is true, it's going to keep running. And then an iterator, like something that you're going to be iterating, like it's going to happen each iteration. Right? So
yeah.
When was the last time you looked at this?
Yesterday.
Okay, so do you see what the issue is now? It's just a syntax error. It's clear, but maybe looking at it with fresh eyes on a new day might help.
Is it the let?
No, it's not the let.
Uh,
It's this middle thing here.
the length less than 0.
Right. What do you think is going on there?
So like you said, it's telling run this code until the this condition returns false, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the array length
Okay, so let's go over it. In your example that you had given me, right? You have an array that is equals 1, 3, 4, 5. So okay, right. So let's evaluate this by hand. Like, what happens? What is array.length?
5, 3, 5.
Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exactly. So what is this evaluating to? The middle.
It's just saying how big the array is.
No. This whole expression. You see, you have array.length less than 0. What is that?
The less than 0. I thought that would include index 0. Oh, but
right. So array is looking at this array, right?
Yeah.
And then dot length. So then this array dot length is turning into what number here?
5.
Exactly. So it's basically just replacing this. Let's see. This turns into 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now do you see the problem?
5 is not less than 0.
5 is never less than 0. That's the problem, right?
Yeah.
So you're just making like so the way that JavaScript is running through this code in this for each this for loop, it's creating this initial condition right here, and then seeing if this is true. If it's true, then it runs this code. It runs this code, and then it runs this code. That's how this thing works. So it's 1, 2. So it's, let's see, this is 1. Oh my God, this is so bad. This is 2. This is 3. Oh my God, that's a horrible 3. 4. Okay. So in your case, it was going right here. So like let I equal 0. And then step 2, it was saying 5 is less than 0. That's false, right? This JavaScript isn't even seeing that. This is just evaluating to false.
I see.
And so because it's false, it doesn't do anything else.
I see. Okay, so the middle condition, so when it had array.length, can it be by itself, or does it always have to have something else in that condition?
What do you mean, can it be by itself?
Like, so if I say just array.length, that's gonna stop at 5.
So it's this, right? This thing that's on red. Can I make it? Can I make it? Yeah. Let's make it less opaque. All right. This thing right here on the red, it's always looking for a truthy or a falsy value. And for now, you can you understand the difference between truthy and truth, right?
Yeah. Wait. Truthy is truth until something is not true. How would you explain truthy different than truth?
Okay, so right, you have different data types. So you have Boolean, right? Boolean. Let's zoom in a little bit. Yeah, right. A Boolean is like that. So true, right? So if you do like if true, console log, this was pointless, because it's always going to be true. Oh my god. Okay, I did too much here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay. Right. So this function was pointless because this is always going to be true. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's true. But also you can do like if let's do this. Let's do it. Let is truthy. Okay, we're gonna declare a value that's called is truthy here. Okay, and so let's if is truthy. Okay. Dot log it is truthy. So I'm gonna do this, and there's gonna what do you think it's gonna happen? Is it gonna print it is truthy or is it not?
Yes.
So let's see it.
Undefined.
Yeah. Ignore this undefined. This wouldn't actually happen if it was if you had a program. This undefined is what is returning. Don't worry about that too much right now. But what we're worrying about whether it prints this console log statement, and it didn't. Why? Because is truthy was declared. So like, let's do this. Let's do a console log. Is truthy, and what do you think it gives?
It will.
And it's just getting the value from here.
Okay. If it's truthy, it will return the console log.
No. Ignore this. Ignore this one for a second. Just yeah. Just do this right here. Like, if you console log is truthy, what is it gonna return? What is it gonna console log? That's the question.
True.
No. So what we did here is we instantiated a variable. Like we said, we told the JavaScript engine, there's going to be a variable called is truthy, but we didn't create it like equal to something yet. So it exists, but it's not defined yet. So if you console log is truthy, it'll give you an undefined. This is the one that we care about. I'm going to zoom out because it's bugging me. There you go. It gives you undefined, and that makes sense, right? Because is truthy is not defined yet. Right. Okay. So like, let's clear and let's start again. Let's refresh this whole thing. Okay. Okay. So let's see. So we're fresh console here. So we're back at let is truthy. Console log is truthy. What does it return? What is it console log?
Undefined.
Yes. Does it make sense why it does that?
Yeah.
Yes. Um, okay, and ignore the ones that have this left arrow on the browser. Right now, we're not worried about them. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna do a mindfuck right now. Okay. I'm gonna refresh the page. What happens if I call like a variable here? Is Truthy is a variable in this case, but I haven't defined it at all. So if I declare it as something that doesn't have a value, it says undefined. Do you know what happens when you try to console log a variable that you didn't even declare? The terminology for it skips me. I'm gonna not let you, like, don't worry about it. It actually gives you a different error. It doesn't give you undefined. It gives you a variable is not defined. Like that. Truthy is not defined, which is different than undefined.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because in this case, is Truthy isn't even a variable yet. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If we do this, now is Truthy is undefined.
I see.
And that's, yeah, like, it's crazy, but it's different, right? It's
Yeah.
like, and those two things are, it's useful to know because, yeah, I mean, these are quirks of the language that kind of like knowing these types of behaviors. Like if you try to console log a variable before you actually declare it, this is the variable declaration. This is called variable declaration. Mm-hmm. If you do this, random words. Okay, so this is a variable declaration. This is a variable assignment.
Mm-hmm.
But you usually do those two at the same time. Usually you would do this. Equals random words. However, if I do this now, it'll also give me an error. Because actually, it won't give me an error, but it should give me an error because I'm trying to declare it again. If I do it with const, it would. But anyway, these are like some. This is starting to get into the weeds of the language, and this becomes the part of the language that knowing these subtleties of it make you way better at it.
Mm-hmm.
But let's clear this. Okay, so now we're going back to this concept of what is a Truthy value, because that's something foundational to JavaScript. Like there are things that are true, right? So let's say, okay, let is Truthy, and then we had this one. If is Truthy, console log, it is Truthy, okay? And we said that it didn't console log. The reason that this didn't console log is because this is what's considered in JavaScript a falsy. Falsy, like that value. So there are things that are falsy in JavaScript. So like, let's see, let's go to here. Hold on. Let's bring it. Okay. So it's basically when encountered in a Boolean context. So it's basically Truthy variables, like all these are Truthy because they exist, right? So like if true, obviously we know that that's going to return true. But if you just put like if object in there, it's going to return true. also if you put if number, if you basically put a JavaScript object in there that is not null, undefined, zero, or let's see, yeah, not a number. These are the ones that are falsy, or an empty string.
Mm-hmm.
These are the values that are falsy. So yeah. So in this case, whenever you have an if statement or a statement that's evaluating like a Boolean, you're doing like you're evaluating whether something is truthy or is falsy, right? So for example, like if we do is truthy equals string, what do you think happens if I run this statement? This if is truthy, console log, it is truthy.
If it's truthy, it will console log. It is truthy.
Do you think it will console log?
Yes.
And why do you think that?
Because it is not false. It is not an empty string, or it is defined. So
Yeah.
I think yeah.
Yeah, basically. I mean, basically, it's not an empty string. It's an object that exists. So JavaScript is gonna return this. It is truthy. Mm-hmm. You know, if we can do the same with numbers, with strings, or whatever. You know, if we were to do something like that, then if we run it, it's not gonna console log anything.
Mm-hmm.
So back to our stuff. So you have an array here, and you have this function. Let's see, can we indent it? No, we can't indent. Okay. Oh, maybe a little bit. Okay, so let's say, so we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. Right. So this is what gets evaluated first. This gets evaluated second. This gets evaluated third, and then this gets evaluated. That's how a for loop works in JavaScript.
Okay.
Right. You just so happen that when it got to step 2, this gets evaluated whether it's truthy or falsy. And in your case, it was false. So false is falsy. So it stopped running at that point.
I see. Yeah. Makes sense now.
Yeah, and that's a long-winded explanation. But what you usually do in stuff like this is, let's see, is you compare it. You compare the iterator, which is I,
Mm-hmm.
is less than.
I see.
Already that length. And then in this case, right, if you go through it, it's gonna go let I equal 0, then it evaluates this function whether it's truthy or falsy. Then it runs this. Then it increases I. Then it goes back. Right, let I equal 0. Is I less than array length? Evaluates it. Okay. So oh no. So.
So if I is less than array.length, that's going to print all of the numbers, or is it going to print? Yeah, it's gonna print 1, 3, 2, 5, 6, right?
In this case, it's not. No.
Okay.
You could make it print 1, 3, 2, 5, 6, but in this case it won't.
Okay.
And yeah, let me explain to you why it won't, because you're using a for loop. So like you're basically, the entire instructions of the thing are here in front of you, and like with the steps, right? So think about it. What is the first step, right here?
First step is sorry.
Go ahead.
So the first step would be, it's saying that I is equal to 0.
Exactly, right. So then it'll go to the second step. What is it doing?
The index is less than 5.
Yeah, it's seeing if I is less than 5. What is I in this case?
Do we look at the 0 or the numbers?
Well, what makes sense to you?
0.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you declared it right here, right? So right here, you're doing a declaration and assignment. I equals 0. So then is this same I that is getting,
Okay.
So it's
0.
Yeah. So 0 is 0 less than array.length. What's array.length again?
5.
Okay. So it's saying, so at first it declares I equals 0. Next step, it asks if I is less than array.length, which is the same thing as saying, is 0 less than 5, which it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So then what's the next step?
Console log, or any code that you add inside of the loop.
Yeah. But in this specific case, it's console logging I. So what is I equal to?
I is equal to the 0.
Yeah. I mean, you declared it right here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you asked me a question earlier, like, is it going to print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or is it going to print 1, 3, 2, 5, 6? So what's the answer?
It's gonna print I, so it's 0.
0, and the next round?
And then step number 4.
Yeah. It's gonna increase I, right?
Yes.
So what is it gonna print, like, in order?
Then it's gonna print 3 or 1. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, you have it right there. It's all the steps are laid out in this piece of code in front of you, right?
Then it's gonna be I is gonna turn into 1, and then it continues to step number 2, and then it continues to console log the number 1, and then again I becomes 2.
Exactly, right?
Okay.
It makes sense because it does this every single time until this guy this is like the main guy, until this guy is falsy. That's when it stops.
Okay, makes sense.
So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, every single time. Like, I mean, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, every single time until the middle guy is falsy.
Okay.
Right. So if you wanted to the console log to read 13256, how would you go about that?
it would be
You'd have to change this.
array.
So what?
Array, and then in brackets I.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay. I see. Okay.
Cool. Yeah. That doesn't solve the algorithm question, but I think it's like, so honestly, I'm biased. Like maybe it's where I am. I know you're in California. I'm based in Chicago, but like where I am, I haven't been asked any algorithm questions in any interview that I've done, and I've gone by just by knowing this type of inner workings of the language. And so I prefer this type of knowledge to algorithm knowledge, but we can totally go into algorithm territory.
Yeah, this is helpful. Like I'm like, okay, I know the loops, but I don't really understand every single detail that goes into the loop. Like I've used them, and this explanation it's so much better than everything I've seen.
Yeah, I mean it's also useful to have like the back and forth between you and I, because like I would have probably glossed over things that we just went over.
Oh, okay. And so for the question of for the algorithm,
Mm-hmm.
so I always get stuck inside of the loop. So if I want to do like an operation, if I want to add, for example, each of the numbers 1, 3, 2, 5, 6, if I want to add the 3 to the previous number each time, or like the 3 to the following numbers, I don't know how to go about that. Like,
So I mean, you have like the beginning of it right here, right? And yeah, there's different ways that you could go about it. So like let's think about it. Okay, so let's do. Okay, so my computer's so slow with the. There it is. No, couldn't get the thing. Okay, let's do a different color here. Okay, so if you do array.I, this is gonna be the first, right? If you do array I on the first round, it's gonna look at this guy, right?
right.
So how would you get it on this same round to look at this guy?
I was thinking of using the index numbers, but so the second index would be 1.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right there. Okay, so like let's get this thing to and we're dealing all with pseudocode here. Why doesn't this work? Okay. Sorry. Okay. I'm gonna get rid of some of these guys. I'm gonna keep the steps here. Okay, so we want this guy. This guy's pointing to 1. How do we get? Let's do a purple here. And let's do. Oh my god. How do we get this guy to point to 3?
Array. When I don't know if I can use the numbers like 1 array that no. I don't know.
I mean, you're saying like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that works. Honestly, like that'll get it to point to this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then in the next round, this is, so in the first round, I equals 0, right? And the second console log is gonna be 3. So this is gonna console log 1, 3, right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what is it gonna console log on the next round when it goes over the loop again?
The same thing. Or no, it's gonna be on the step number 3, it's gonna console log 3 and then 3 on the second console log.
Right. And on the fourth one, on the third one, or whatever, in the next one?
It'll be number 2 and number 3.
Yeah, exactly. So this is gonna stay constant to 3,
Yeah.
and this is gonna change. Is that what we want?
Okay.
It's a question. Is that what we want?
Well, so if I wanted the second console log to be changed into the next one,
Mm-hmm.
can I use like I and then plus plus, or to change the same way as the first console log is changing, but I want the following index to show. So if the first console log shows I mean 1,
Mm-hmm.
the second console log is 3, and then I continue for the first console log to display 3, and then the second console log 2, and continue that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would I put in this guy here?
I plus 1, or I plus, or I well, if it is plus 1, it's just gonna. If it is plus 1, it's just gonna do like 3 plus 1, 4.
No. Okay, so you got to think of like of programs like as a useful tool to think of how programs work is they kind of how software thinks about stuff is it kind of substitutes it's a process of substituting over and over and over again. Yeah, so the first thing that when it gets to this console log statement, right, it's going to go to the innermost thing. The innermost thing is going to be this guy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this is going to evaluate to 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
2. Okay. So now the software is going to, like, now the program is basically thinking right.
Okay.
And then it's gonna do the same thing, right? Then it's gonna go back into here and substitute that one. So then it's gonna do right, what's array 2 or array 1 or whatever, let's say 3. And actually this, since you started at 0, in the first iteration,
It'd be 1.
it'd be 1, yeah. So let's do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, like the software is doing this series of substitutions, right?
Oh, I see.
And then it's gonna go find this thing right here, console, figure out how to do that, and substitute 3. So it's gonna keep doing these types of substitutions, right, over and over again. So So yeah, in this case, doing I plus 1 will allow you to get to
the following.
yeah, it's basically gonna right. It's gonna go to the next guy in the process, right? So the green is gonna be, let's see. Okay, it's starting to get confusing. Yeah, right. But
Oh, that makes sense.
right, so this is gonna go to 1, and this is gonna go to 3, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
If I do I plus plus, would it do the same thing?
So actually, I think that it wouldn't. I think that what that would do would be actually change the reference. It would do the same for the first item, but I think that it might mess up your loop here. I'm not 100% sure. Usually you don't, because I plus plus manipulates the variable I itself. And so on the next loop, if you do I plus plus here, what my concern is that, let's keep this because this is useful, I think. What my concern is, if you do I plus plus here, and I'm not sure if this is the case, I would have to check it. Like this is part of like where my knowledge is limited. I think if you do I plus plus here, it's gonna change I itself to 1, right, on the first round. But then once it's done with step 3, what's step 4?
I plus plus.
Right. So in this case, you would be kind of making I add 2 each round. I think. I'm sure. I'm actually not 100% sure. So let's try it. Oh my God, this is so slow. My poor computer is just struggling to get by.
That's my computer sometimes.
What are you doing to him? And yeah, Ethan suggested that I use an index.js file, but not gonna do that right now. So let's do array equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have to declare it, right? I didn't declare it. So actually this is gonna give me an error, and we kind of went over this, what this error might be. Oh, actually it did do that. Never mind. Okay, so now, right, we have this. And then let's change here to I plus plus. And let's see what happens. 1, 1, 3, 3, 5, 5. Yeah, so it's skipping 2.
Okay.
And that's interesting. It's actually it's still using the value for I, but it's modifying it in place. And then so it's modifying I, but it's still giving you the value for I in this. This is called a closure, but we'll get, yeah, let's not get too much into that. Yeah, so like I suspected, it would skip 2 each turn, so it's not right. So the way that we did it here, this would be the way to go about it.
Okay.
Following so far?
It's good, yes. Good so far.
Okay. Do you want to solve the algorithm?
Yes.
I honestly, I'm a way bigger fan of talking about closures and variable declarations and things like that, and than algorithms. But I think we can figure this one out. Okay. So I want you to walk me through how you would think about solving it. Again, like whiteboard, like let's do it like I'm doing it here in the big screen. Like tell me the steps that you think you need to solve it.
Okay. Do we want to create the function right now? Or go through coding that would be inside?
Let's see. Let's do like hold on. Okay. So we're gonna do it in pseudocode, okay? Here, okay. And this will be faster, I believe.
Yeah. So I want to create the function that takes any array.
Function. Function. Oh my god, it's gonna. Whatever. Function A that takes array.
And I want to so after accessing the array, I want to go through all of the numbers inside of the array and compare the compare the second index to the previous index and then the following index.
So for index in array, compare index plus 1 to index, right? So let's say for array, let's do this. It's pseudocode, so we can make up a programming language as we're going. Yeah.
And then after that I want to compare index plus 1 to that's index plus 1 to our index. Okay, and then index plus 1 to array index plus 2. That'll be the following, right?
Okay, yeah, you can do that.
Okay, and then if so I want to see if that would only compare the 3 first numbers at the beginning, so index first, second index to first index to the third index. And then I want to see if those two numbers or totals after a comparison, if those two numbers are less than the second index, then
if what two numbers?
If index, so the first index, and the index plus 2. Oh yeah, if index is less than index plus 1, and index plus 1 if our index is greater than array index plus 2. Then return index plus 1.
Array index plus 1. That sounds beautiful to me. Actually, you can like that's this. You're doing the comparison here, right? So compare index plus 1 to array index, and this is what you're doing here. So let's just get rid of this one, and compare index plus 1 to array index plus 2. Here you're comparing it. Okay. So let's get rid of these two.
Yeah.
Okay. That looks beautiful to me. I think you can totally do that.
Cool. Would this go through all of the numbers, right? And then it would compare first the first 3 numbers, then it would skip the first I don't know how to explain. It would compare all the numbers, right? It would go through the array and it would return the first big number.
It would return the first big one. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You might have to throw in a break statement. I don't know if return statements kill loops, or you might need a break statement. Like I always get that mixed up. But if right. Yeah, I think you can totally do that. Do you want to try solving it yourself? Do you want to take it as a homework? How do you want to handle it?
I think I'll take it, and then if I get stuck, I'll message you.
I'll send you this. I mean, this is what you got already. Like
Okay.
I'm gonna send it to you in the Discord. Let's see. And there's gonna be a pseudocode.
I would always get stuck in this inside of the loop. The first step, like it would do array and then in the brackets I, and then I wouldn't know where to go from there. Because I didn't know I could use the plus 1, or if that would break my code. I didn't know if it would work, so I would always get stuck there. Now I understand.
You know, the cool thing about code is that, like, well, okay, unless you're running like databases in production that hold people's medical records and stuff, is that, and even then there should be systems in place, but anyway, is that you can break it. Like, you shouldn't be scared to try to break code.
Okay.
Like, you know, try things out, play around with it, you know, like just now when we tried the I++ or whatever, like this guy, still there, right, this guy, like, you know, like I didn't know for a fact what it would do, but like it's just like, let's just throw it up on a console. Like I love that like every browser just basically has a JavaScript compiler. You can just straight up write JavaScript into any browser and do it. So like, don't be afraid to try things out and get dirty and put, yeah, try to break it. Don't be afraid of breaking code. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so perfect. How did you do that on the browser?
The browser tools?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wait, no, you need to know about browser tools. That if, yeah, like, okay, so, right. So like if you right click on a browser and go to inspect, and then you go to the console,
yeah,
you can literally write JavaScript here, and you can actually write JavaScript that interacts with the current page that you have open. So you can be like, you can look, let's look at something, ID summary here, you know, so you can write, let's see, document the query selector, right? And then you go summary. Dot inner text. No, I thought that's what it was called. Huh? Oh, it's a capital S summary.
Mm.
So you can do, yeah, inner text equals just hacked. Hold on. MDN LOL. Hold on, I need to wrap it in strings, as every good hacker knows. Bam! Look at that. You see how I did that?
Nice.
Right. So you can actually like do things. So you can play around with browser. You can also, like, when you're making web apps, you can come in, you can look at this stuff, you can play around with the styles, right? Like, you do know that, right? Like, you can change the styles or whatever.
Yeah, I just didn't know like that we could write actual JavaScript on there.
Yeah, so this is where you put like all your console log statements, right? Like, this is where you go, but you can actually write, like, straight up just write JavaScript in there.
Okay, cool.
And it'll run it, because a browser is like a engine that has JavaScript, like it's a machine that's running JavaScript in it, right? Modern browsers are.
Mm-hmm. I see.
But yeah,
Nice. Okay.
this was fun.
Yeah, this was so helpful. Okay. Thank you again, and then I'll talk to you later.
Okay, talk to you. All right.
Bye.
Bye. But yeah, no, Maria's great. She's we've been kind of tracking along her progress for a while. She is doing a boot camp, and yeah, it's interesting because boot camps just go so fast. I think that's one of the issues when you kind of jump into a boot camp without prior knowledge, that boot camps just go blazing, and you have 2 days to catch up, and then you end up skipping, or you don't skip over them, you do go over the fundamentals. Like, I'm sure this is not the first time that someone talked to her about like the mechanics of the for loops and things like that, but it just doesn't stick if you only look at it once, and then it doesn't stick if you don't apply it, and then it can get intimidating, and you can forget, and you're bombarded with so much new information that it just doesn't it's boot camps are awesome, but yeah, I mean, all the resources are there online for free. So I'm a big fan of teaching yourself, and or at least for a while before going into the boot camp and stuff. But it was a cool one. And but like this whole like Truthy Falsy stuff, it's so foundational to everything that you're going to be doing in JavaScript, like, and also like function declarations, function expression, like what's the difference between like variable declaration, variable assignment, undefined versus not defined. You get into hoisting, you get into closures, you get into scopes, all that stuff. Like that's the stuff that is going to get you jobs, like an employer, like you're gonna want to, like, you're gonna have to have the basics down, right? Like write functions and do API calls and fetch data. But honestly, like knowing the mechanics of how the async, like the event queue works in JavaScript, knowing closures, knowing right, const versus let versus var, what's the difference, function scope, block scope, all that stuff. All that stuff. That's how you get jobs. That's how you like actually solve problems. Like, that's how you actually get into it, and you see an issue, and you're aware of these fundamentals. You're aware of these aspects of coding that are going to actually like allow you to debug this issue, and really kind of get to the root cause. So I'm a big proponent of that, and honestly, I think I would be very scared or hesitant to push a candidate to a position if I know that they don't understand something like closures or scopes and things like that. So it's it's the thing that will set you as someone that knows their stuff. So I definitely recommend it. All right, so there you have it, Maria. That was an awesome conversation with Maria. She's absolutely great. I hope that you got some value out of it. I know I got a lot of value explaining this stuff, and I hope that she did too. So let me know if you found this useful, and I'll see you on the next one.